Okay, here we go. Welcome, Hernan Chousa. Hernan is a former Argentinian tennis player, and he does a lot of stuff that he's gonna tell us. And he's not only a tennis player, he's also somebody that has become a friend in the last years because we do a lot of things that point in a similar direction. We both love to read, we both have a podcast, we both love the area of human performance. He has specialized a little bit more on the parents side, and I have been a little bit more on the players and the coaches side. So welcome, Hernan, and please tell us a little bit more about you. I know you do more than what I said. You can help me there a little bit.
Hi, Tonio. Thanks for having me today. Well, I run a company, a family business. I'm the CEO. We are in Flake Coatings. And as you said, I'm a former tennis player. I played till I was 20 years old. Then I got married. I have two kids that play tennis. And I started dealing with all these sports parenting issues that no one told me about. So I have to learn on the job. It was an on-the-job painful training. And my eldest son was pretty good, and then he quit tennis at 15. And at that point, I started writing some content about sports parenting. And as you well said, I have podcasts and I've written a couple of books. I wrote a novel also. That was a tough one. And yeah, I'm involved in all these personal development topic that you are very used to. And I love to be in contact with people from all over the world. And it's a great venture. Yeah.
Awesome. So there you go. I'm gonna take you through a journey, and this is the idea of this podcast for me is to understand how other people started with this game and got good at it. So my first question is that one. How did you get to play tennis? Why tennis, not soccer or something else?
Well, in Argentina back then in 1970, Guillermo Vilas was a superstar there. In 1974, he started winning tournaments and he popularized the game. So my parents started tennis and they want me and my sister to take some lessons. And I was more willing to play than my sister. So I went to the wall several hours a day and I play kind of imaginary matches between my idols, let's say Vilas, Claire, Villander, Lendl, and I enjoyed the game. And I started playing tournaments in under 10, and I was pretty good back then. But unfortunately, I grown up late. So when I was 12, 13, 14, results didn't appear. So one of the choices was to shift sports, but I love tennis and I continue. And then when I was 15, it was a turning point in my career because I did 2 months very intense training, 1 month at Nick Terrace, and the other month at Tandil Academy with Pérez Urdan. And the first tournament after that pre-season training, I got in the national rankings. And that was the startup for me. It was a big summer training session.
Interesting. You know, you mentioned the wall, and the wall has been a starting point for so many tennis players. And I have the feeling the wall is a little lost, it's running out of partners. Not too many kids playing the wall right now.
Yeah, something, I enjoyed the wall back then, but my parents didn't told me, you have to go to the wall. It was a game for me. And I play with a tennis ball in the kitchen also with my hand. So it was a regular training. And when I went to Tandil Academy, they practiced the wall. The first half an hour was at the wall. And when my older son was 10, I sent him to train there, and there was the wall again. So in tennis, the wall is your best friend. It puts every ball on the court.
I agree. I agree. It's such an amazing teacher. And now that you mention your parents, that goes to my next question. And I'm gonna put it in context. Nowadays, you see that parents are very involved in their development of their kids when it comes to tennis. They assist many practices. They're there from the first ball to the last ball. They go to tournaments. What was the role of your parents in your tennis?
Well, my father was involved, and he wants me to improve, to be better. There was some kind of pressure there. My mother used to do the logistics to deliver me to the clubs when I was under 12, but she was pretty not say, let's say, shy, but didn't talk too much. She just uh stay there and never say nothing and just have a smile in her face. But my father was a bit pushy, and I have to say that all that training in under 15 was a sort of his drive to improve my tennis, and I agree with that, and I earned a lot of confidence there. So it was a pushy, but it was good for me back then.
Okay, so
And
your
I have to say one thing. When I came to tennis with my kids, I replicate my parents' model, my father's model, and at
okay.
that moment, somehow it collapses.
So it was different for your son than for you. The same
Well,
experience, it turned out to be different.
well, when I was 15, it was a good thing for me to become better. But then when I was 17 or 18, I lost the drive. And I started playing tennis because I play for a long time, so I have to play. But I lost that drive, that internal drive. If you have pushy parents, you have to be aware that the kid will lose the drive, and it has to be from themselves, not that you think
Yeah,
it's a their thing.
yeah. I'm going to tell you a little bit my experience as a coach. What I see is that most of the times when parents are too pushy, the kids do not develop their inner drive. And in very rare occasions, you have kids that are very obedient and they do as they're told, and they can survive in that model, a father pushing or mother pushing and kid doing. The majority of cases that I've seen, they do not develop inner drive, or they have nobody to push them, and it comes from inside. So this is my experience as a coach. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the kids will obey for a certain period of time, but then they have to find something inside. Perhaps they want to play because they want to please their parents. I have my personal experience because I told you that I didn't win when I was 12, 13, 14. I started winning when I was 15, and that gave me tons of confidence. And I was eager to fight every ball till the end, because when you don't win when you are young and you experience that feeling, it's amazing. It's like a drug. And I remember that there was one important match when I was under 18. I played against a guy from my club, and he brought some friends from the club to cheer from him. And that was a battle. That was a battle. And I lost very tight in the first set. And my father told to me, I remember like it was today, you have to calm down. You have to calm down. And I shifted my intention in tennis. And I think that was a big mistake.
You lost energy, calming down.
I lost that courage. I lost that eagerness to win no matter what, fighting till the end. Like that was a battle. For me, going to the court, it was a battle. And then it was like playing tennis. I want to play better, but it wasn't a fight. And you have to fight to win in sports.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great. Is a very nice distinction. And I know we passed already your beginning, but I'm curious to understand how was the coaching style you received at the very beginning? Was it technical? or experiential, like you play matches and you learn by doing, or did you have a coach that had a certain philosophy, or how did that happen for you, or a mix of everything?
Well, I started in a club because back then there weren't academies. You play in a club, and all the guys play there, and we play interclubs, and we play tournaments, and we were a big group, and it was fun to be there. It was my 12, 13, 14, and I didn't have a personal coach. I had some private lessons because the technique was very important, not for my father, but for me also. I have a very polished technique. Maybe you know that tennis is not about technique, but back then it was important. And then when I shifted that summer that I did a big training, I got a lot of more confidence. And one thing that I did when I was 14, I play very low rank tournaments and I win a lot of tournaments. I wasn't good, but I started winning, very low tournaments that you can play whatever age you are. So I can play with a guy 30 years old, 35, and I get involved, in the mud, in the rush,
Mm-hmm.
You have to get matches. And that was a big training for me, playing a lot of tournaments. And that was a thing that my dad booked me to play tournaments every weekend. I remember that I had some party, and the other day in the morning I have to play. So playing a lot of tournaments for me was a big deal.
You a big deal, like you enjoy it? It was
No,
fun?
no, it was good for my tennis, for my ranking, for my confidence. I won 6 tournaments. In my class, they say, "Oh, the guy that wins 6 tournaments." I
Yeah,
was the only one. It wasn't a very high level tournament, but in terms of confidence, I was way more confident than before.
yeah. Winning is winning. It doesn't matter, no?
Winning is everything.
Yeah. Winning is winning. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was able to play nationals, and was a whole different thing. And what happened to me, if you ask me about turning pro, I have a couple of tools to play. I have perhaps big serve and big forehand. And then when I shift my model from fighter to player, I have a coach that tries to get me some backhand, some slice, some volley, and I start losing identity. So I was one player at one moment, and then I was perhaps a better tennis player, but I wasn't so good. And my game have some holes, some big holes to move to the next level, as you can figure out the return. You need a great return to play in the pro level, to cross that barrier of 200. Because back then, when you and me play, it was very fast. The hardcore was hardcore. It wasn't slow as it is today. So there were some holes in my game also.
Great. I am gonna talk about it a little later, maybe again, but that subject of identity and the strength and what you do good and what you don't do good, where to put the attention. But I'm also curious. You name Guillermo Vilas, and it's funny, but Guillermo Vilas was my idol as well, and probably the idol of so many kids that started tennis in that generation. What about Guillermo Vilas uh, made an impact on you?
Well, at the beginning, he made an impact in my parents because
Okay.
when he started winning, I was 4 or 5 years old. He made an impact on the players. Then I have some, my father always, there were many Davis Cups in Argentina. So I have the chance to go there and watch the players, Villas against McEnroe, Argentina against the USA. And I have a funny story to tell because I had a couple of practices with Guillermo when he was just retiring and I was 19. We play a couple of sets, and he loves to talk about other things, not just tennis. And we finished the second set, and he approached me and he asked, oh, where are you going to play next? And I said to him, I have to go to Jamaica and Dominican Republic. Oh, yeah. And I thought, this guy's going to say me something important about tennis. And he said to me, oh, Dominican Republic, you have to buy art there. And I was 19 years old, you know. So this guy was some kind of celebrity, not just a tennis player. He had another kind of interests, and he played in my club, and I seen him every day. And he played always in court number one, and that court was for him, and that's it.
Yeah, you know what I impressed me about Vilas? I think it was the first book I read in my life. ¿Quién soy y cómo juego? Who I am and how do I play? And I love, first of all, it was like um, a mythical person for us. So you heard that he practiced so many hours and he had this big left arm, and I love the physicality and the effort that they say he put in his game. No? So that was a big inspiration for me to spend lots of hours on court practicing. How about for you?
Yeah, he was the first guy who gave it all to make it in tennis. I performed my physical training with his coach, and one of my coach was back then one of his sparrings, and he used to have a notebook with all the details about every player, what they eat, how they string their rackets, what are their strengths, their weakness. He had everything. And for example, if he wants to switch from clay to hardcourt, he said, I have to train 15 hours in one day or 2 days from 7 hours, but he needs certain amount of hours to shift some surface. So he was very involved in the details, you know, and he was in love with the game. Maybe you don't see that kind of precision nowadays, but he was obsessed. Maybe perhaps like Djokovic, he was obsessed in tennis.
Nice, huh? Yeah. I mean, he was the godfather for all South Americans to play tennis. And I was just thinking about that the other day because in his times we had in Brazil also Thomas Koch, and he was also a very, very good player. But the impact that Vilas had in kids in South American tennis was just huge.
Yeah, back then in Argentina, tennis was for an elite level, was an elite class, and he made it available for every people who want to play tennis. And if before him, if you watch a guy with a racket, perhaps you get bullied, you know. But after Guillermo, everything changed. And as I said, he wasn't just a tennis player because he was dating Princess Caroline, and he has any other. He has um, apartments in New York, apartments in Paris. He wasn't always in Argentina. He was a world citizen, you know. He write poems. He liked music. He had many interests, so he was a kind of a rock star, a celebrity. It wasn't about tennis. And regarding tennis, he was really obsessed because he played 8 hours. And perhaps he had a lunch on the court, you know?
What an interesting figure. Yeah. Let's shift gears. Did you have any like memory of a great match or an insight that said to you in that moment, oh, this is interesting, this is what I want to try to do with my life, I want to try to be a tennis pro? Did you have any insight on court?
My match, or if
Yes.
my best match, I think it was an under 18 tournament, a local tournament. We played all the COSAT circuit, and it was the first national tournament. I had to play quarterfinals against Patricio Arnold, and he was number one in the world at that moment because he won Quito and he won the Banana Bowl. So I was playing the number one, and we play always tough match. You know, he won almost all of them, but he didn't. His game wasn't uncomfortable to me. So I won the first set, and then I was down and break point down. And I remember I made a second serve and volley, and I end up winning the match. So that was very important for me, just to win a number one in the world in juniors. And he was one of the top players in Argentina also.
Mm. Yeah, Pato. And that gave you like the thought that you could be a tennis professional, or how did that happen?
Well, I shifted my mind after that precision training at Bollettieri's and Tandil Persoldán. When I started winning, I was perhaps in the first 5 in the country, and I have my tools. I have my big forehand. I have my serve. I realized that I was a tough guy to play. And then back then I realized that I can be a pro. When I was 16, I started playing. But back then I didn't. When I was perhaps 18, 19, you get to a point that you don't evolve. You're in a messy place for 2, 3 years, and that is important to have a coach that can tell you, okay, this is not the end of the thing. It's a transition, because when you shift from juniors to pro, you start not winning, you start losing on Mondays and have to train all the week, and all that stuff perhaps erodes your mind, So you have to be very well surrounded in that age.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. We mentioned confidence, that you started to get a little bit the feeling of having confidence when you won those smaller tournaments and you were maybe 15. And let's make a connection between these two things: confidence and your strength, identity. What happened there? Can you elaborate a little bit more of that? Because you said you became a better player having more tools, but you had no identity, and maybe your confidence went down a little. So how do?
Well, really, I start understanding not the game, but a way of playing when I was at Tandil with Pedro Lang, and Franco Davin was there, Guillermo was there, and they spoke to us young guys about how to play the forehand, and he had a big forehand, and I modeled him, So I have my game. I knew that I have to put it away when I had the chance, and then when I start on tour, when you play older guys, it's tough to make some winners, So the ball comes back all the time, and at that moment you start doubting about yourself. What worked before doesn't work then, so that confidence starts eroding. There are some tactics to earn confidence. Perhaps when you are low, you play a practice session with a guy that you're going to win. Perhaps he's better than you, but you're going to win. So you can have that kind of things to improve your confidence. But when you know your game, that's the best thing. When you know what are you playing at, no matter what is on the other side of the net, you have to be aware of your game first, I think.
Okay, so that's the part that you name identity, having your player's identity. Yeah, understanding your strengths and being able to use them and feel home.
Yeah, perhaps you have 2, 3 plays that you made in a match, like Rafa. He serves wide and he starts with the forehand. So I always first serve hard and then start with the forehand, and that was my big thing. But then when you start playing different kind of guys, the tools that you have before doesn't fit or doesn't match. So you have to improve certain things, But yeah, the identity, it's regards with how you play and the way you play.
Hernan, and from what you said, you stopped really early. playing on tour, no?
Well,
20 years old is the very beginning for many
yeah,
players.
it's the very beginning for right now, but in the 90s, if you were 20 years old and you were in top 100, you were wasting your time because Claire retired at 26, Bo retired at 26, Villander retired early also. So I was 300 and I wasn't making money. And the other thing that was important in my case is that I have a company. My father had a company. So I have that pressure that I was leaving something on the table, no? But the main thing is that back then, many people retire early, and we didn't know that if you keep on there, you will get the level, If you stay there pushing and training and pushing, maybe you play some doubles, maybe you play some interclubs, and you get the level,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that part that you mentioned, we were not even aware of that those days, that there was this transition. And I remember guys like Jimmy Arias. Jimmy Arias had no transition because he was 17 and was top 10 and playing on the big tournaments, playing finals. And I always look at him and I say, wow, what a player, no? And when he was outside of the court, he was just a kid like anybody else, no? But then when he played tennis, he was a monster already. He was an adult with 17, 18 years old. So I think the concept of having this transition was not really established. It's like you had it or you didn't.
Yeah, back then you had Andre Agassi with 17, also at an elite level, Chang winning French Open with 17. That I was 20 and I was 300. I was, let's say, a loser,
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. And was it a hard decision for you to stop?
In fact, it wasn't because I didn't have the drive and it's difficult to travel the whole year. You have to love that way of living also. You perhaps you see nowadays a guy that is top 15 and you say, okay, this guy had an amazing life, but that guy is every week in a different place and they have to travel a lot away from their family. So I think nowadays the environment is very important because the tour is very long. You don't have a vacation. Players complain about
Yeah.
that. They don't have periods to rest.
Yeah,
So for me,
it's true.
it wasn't a hard decision because I had the backup, and that is a reason why I quit and others stay in the game, and perhaps they reach it. They made it because they burned their ships.
Yeah. 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 Interesting point. And do you have any life lessons that you learn in tennis that have helped you in your life, in like your current reality, your work, your family life, your friends? Something that you learn and you say, wow, this, I owe this to tennis.
Well, in fact, tennis gave me some kind of drive or persistence. When I finished tennis, I missed 1 year of school, so I have to give some subjects. And there was a lady that helped me with the thing. It was a friend of my mother, and she said to me, "We were talking for 2 hours, and you are concentrated 2 hours. Why does this happen?" Well, that's tennis. You can be 2, 3, 4 hours on court, and perhaps today I go to the gym every day, and for me it's not big deal. But you say to a person that wasn't an athlete to go to the gym, say, okay, maybe once a week, once in a while. You have that persistence of being a pro, and that's a good thing. The other thing is about doing different things all the time. Now that I'm perhaps older, I am doing what was perhaps bad in my tennis. I try to fix the different things. And now for my life, I have my writing, I have my podcast, I have my interviews, I have my professional life. So I can deal with different things at the same time. So if you focus on one thing at a time, you can do several things, you know?
Right, right. And tell us a little bit about the parent shift, your concept of parents. Where are you at there right now? Um, it seems really interesting to me what you're doing.
Well, as I said, when my son quit tennis at 15, I wrote My Son Tennis Player, and I just share
Sorry to
my.
interrupt, which I read and I found fantastic. A fantastic book. I had to laugh a lot because you made fun of typical day situations, no?
Yeah, it was an ironic way of presenting the junior circuit, and with different types of parents, different type of coaches, the different topics that are there, and there are some drawings inside, and it's very funny, and all the people remember me that book, and then I've written another ones that I think that are better than that. In English is called Parent Shift, because I have to give a presentation in English a couple of years ago, so I have to write a script, and then I ended up writing a book with all the different areas where parents can make an upgrade in their relationship. But to name a few, we tend to, not to say push, but in our relation with our kids, we tend to talk too much, you know. So instead of saying all the things they have to do, I think parents have to take care of themselves first, because they have a lot to improve, and the kids have to learn from experience. They can have a coach, they can have another person to guide them. And one topic that is important is that they are watching you. They don't listen about what you said, but they are watching what you do. So if you don't work out, how can you say to your kid, do your push-ups, do your abs, and you are overweight, you know? So for parents, for me, the first thing is take care of themselves and have a fulfilled life with different hobbies, so we don't have any extra time to throw all the things in our kids. That's the main thing.
I love it. Great advice. Do you have any other for parents that, for example, that are too nervous, too involved, and where the relationship between the parent and the kid starts to get a little toxic, where they talk back and forth and
Yeah, there's something very interesting about training sessions um, that we talk about in the early beginnings. I watch my kids play, and that's a mistake. That's their environment where they have to build a relationship with the coach, build a relationship with their peers. So if we are there, the dynamics won't be the same. So if we have to deliver them to the practice, we can read a book at a coffee shop, we can go for a walk, but we don't have to be there watching all the session, because after the session, you will want to share what you saw with your kid. And that's not a good talking, you know?
yeah. You know that I think in at least in the United States, where there is a good player, there is very often a very involved parent. So, and I've had conversations with some of the parents, and they say that's the right thing to do. It's a model, because look at that player. No, and they can give you examples. I'm not going to name any, but you know many players where the parents are really involved. The thing that I think they don't see is how often that model fails. So when I listen to you, and I, I think the same. I honestly, I think my father never watched me practice, never, and I was really inner. inner motivator for my game. I play tennis because I love tennis. That's it. I had no other motivation than I wanted to play. But parents sometimes they're afraid the kids are not practicing well, or the coach is not teaching the right thing, whatever they think is right. And very often the right for them is not right for the person that plays the game. No, you have
Yeah.
different views. How do you think they can
Well,
get
the,
more
the main
learning? Yeah.
the main thing, and I learned by experience, is to have a great coach. A great coach, or just want to start the game, to be a good person, that you trust him or her. Uh, my kids have a couple of coaches. They have good ones. They have not so good ones. But with the good ones, I want to tell a little story, because my eldest son Julian played Eddie Herr in under 12. He reached the quarters. Then he was going to play some Caceres tournaments and then the Orange Bowl. And 3 days before the Orange Bowl, he had some rust in his serve, And he was traveling with Marcelo Gomez, the former Del Potro's coach.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I seen that he has some rust in his serve. And he looked at me and he said, okay, we have in a couple of days a tournament. And he didn't say more than that. So I thought he wasn't going to do nothing. And he took his serve, and he made 4 rounds at the Orange Bowl, but he listened to me, and I'm a former tennis player. I had another coaches that I can say something and they reject my opinion. But this guy, he accept my opinion, he mixed it with his understanding and make a decision. That's a great coach.
Yeah. But could it be that he listened to your opinion also because you are a tennis player?
Of course, he respect me as a tennis player, but he took the decision. I let him take the decision of shifting or not his serve. I just be making him aware that there was something, and then he
Okay.
decided.
Yeah. And how about, imagine the situation, because he's a very famous coach and he's a coach that has had a lot of success. So it's no doubt about it. Imagine you're a father that don't play tennis and you come up with something like that. What would have been Marcelo's
No,
reaction?
no. Marcelo reaction will say the same that he made with me, but he didn't follow his advice, for sure.
Okay. Okay.
But he listens to me, and we work together, and we have a good understanding. But the main thing is to trust the coach, mostly for all the parents that doesn't understand the game. And all parents think that they have the next Sharapova at home, the next Djokovic at home. And that it's very tough to make a living in tennis. So taking it easy is better in the early stages, because it's a long way. You've seen Novak Djokovic is playing, and he's been playing for 20 years in the tour. That's a lot. And careers are very long. And we think about the next tournament. So we have to go for a long run here, that they enjoy the sports, that they are out of the couch and they are playing some tennis, some other sport. And that's the goal. The goal is they want to come back again, as I went to the wall. That's the big goal.
Yeah. You just mentioned something that I think is a very sensible factor when you say that parents don't know the game. I think parents very often nowadays, because there's such a big flow of information, they think that they understand the game. No, they've been watching their kids maybe for 5 years at different tournaments, and you have YouTube, then you can listen to podcasts, and they
Yeah.
think they understand the game. How do you think a person gets to understand the game?
Well, coaches have to be more wise and make some space for parents. Perhaps, as you said, there are many information available. Parents can be involved in the stats, in other things, but you have to make them involved, but that and in the same way that don't burn the relationship with the kid, you know. So it's a balance. You can say stay away because they are paid, they are the customer, but making them involved in another way, you know. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not, yeah.
I put myself a lot in the shoes of parents because I say this when I go to a doctor, Hernan, I have no idea if the doctor is a great doctor or a bad doctor. I just go to the doctor, and I assume for parents it's the same. They go to a place, they look for a coach, an academy, whatever, and they don't know if the guy in front of them is a good coach or a bad coach. They just go by feeling, but sometimes by their results, uh, and sometimes just because, no. So the poor parents are also sometimes exposed to better or worse coaching depending on luck.
Well, I think that coaches have to give some monthly report to parents, what they are doing with the kid, what they are trying to work on, what are the next tournaments. Once a month is a healthy situation. But nowadays, I see parents, why my kid lost? Wow, you need a full report every loss. That's kind of challenging, you know. You need a relationship, but you need a flow relationship, not a toxic one. So if you keep them informed about what are you working on mentally, what you're working on physically, what you expect about them to be in the next year, because perhaps a parents see that the kid wins a tournament and they have to skip steps, you know, because in the junior circuit, many people skip steps and they start losing all the time against older people. And they say, no, no, they're losing because they are playing with older guys. And you have to build another things when you are kids. So selecting the right coach is important for parents. And you have to listen to the kid always because kids don't speak in words, they behave. So you have to recognize the subtle things about your son or your daughter when they are having a good time. Perhaps it's a good coach, but it's not a good environment. Perhaps it's a great environment, but they are not learning. You have to be very aware.
Awesome, thank you. I think it's such a valuable area to support parents and coaches to find that way to relate better, especially nowadays because it's not a like a one person job anymore. No, it's like a bigger team. I remember my years as a coach in Germany. The parents dropped their kids at the club and they left, and I had the full responsibility and control as well. No, I could do whatever I wanted to and teach whatever I wanted to, whatever I thought it was correct. Now there's a little bit more back and forth input, listening to parents. Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting
well,
subject.
what I can tell to them is that back then we train technique and we don't train the mind, you know. And it's important for kids when they start, you can start making some games or some things to train their mind also. Because then when you're 18, 20 years, you waste perhaps 10 years and you realize that it's about the mind all of the time. And you can use the mind in sports, in business, in whatever you want. So you have to train the mind. The other day I was reading the Rick Macy's book, Billion Dollar Mind, and it's a jewel. It's a jewel.
I
And
haven't read it.
uh, but it's a jewel. You have to set the tone for yourself, you know, the self-talk, what do you say to yourself, your environment. You have to be aware and you have to make your kids aware also, you know.
Yeah, very important. The mind is a fundament of high performance. Um, Hernan, you mentioned that you just wrote a novel. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The novel I wrote it, I think it was 3 years ago. I have 2 kids, and I was high focus on my elder one, Julian, and I wasn't much related with Sebastian. And I talk about in the book about the forgotten son. So when I started to write the novel, it was about Sebastian to balance the equation. And at that moment, I didn't have the tools to write a novel, so I went to a workshop about creative writing. And after that, I joined a group about the 18 texts with a group of 7 guys that were writing novels, stories, that kind of stuff. And that was a kind of upgraded group. And I learned a lot there. They erased many sentences that I wrote, but it was great for me. And writing a novel is a long run, because perhaps you are one whole year there. And every Friday we went there, and the teacher was editing your text in front of everyone, and everyone has to share their opinion about your work. And that was tough, listening that this is not so good, that this hasn't coherence. Yeah, but I learned a lot there, and I'm very grateful that I wrote my novel.
I can imagine. Yeah, congratulations for that. I also wrote a couple of books, and it took a lot of discipline, and I did it on my own without any knowledge. I just put in the ideas and correcting and trying to make sense, and it was really difficult. So people sometimes ask me, "Are you going to write again?" And I say, I don't think so, unless something comes up. But it's yeah, I can imagine how tough it was for you. Also, a learning experience, when people criticize you in front of you, and then you have to swallow that, no?
Yeah, you mentioned discipline. I want to share a little secret. When I was writing a novel, I arrived to my office half an hour earlier, and I wrote a scene, and I edited, and I sent it to a friend. Every day I do that, from Monday through Fridays at the office, and on the weekends on a coffee store. Every day I deliver to the guy. And one Sunday, I don't know what happened, that I didn't deliver nothing. And my friend told me, what has happened with my mini novel? You didn't deliver it. So I had an accountability partner to push me and to make it happen. It's a persistent thing. Writing a novel is not a small topic. You have to be prepared, and you have to be involved in that. But it's rewarding when you ended up with a good book.
And do you feel like more prepared now to write another one if you would want to?
Well, I don't have the drive to write it now. On Friday, I went to go to lunch with a friend, and he told me, "Yeah, you must write another thing because you're a good writer." But I don't have the topic. But one thing about the novel is that I have a great coach. That teacher was a great coach and is my editor in every book I deliver. And that's a big thing. Good coaches elevate your game. It's in writing, it's in sports, it's everything. That guy elevated my writing a lot.
Awesome. Love that. So, Hernan, I'm going to ask you just a last question. I don't want to keep you here forever, but I ask this question to everyone at the end of the podcast: is if you could give an advice to little Hernan when he started to play tennis, what would that advice be?
Well, I just say to him to keep that love for the game that you had it when you started, and you had it till you were 15, 16. That passion for the game, that passion for playing, for growing, for becoming better. It was a way of building different things like confidence, character. But I can say, yeah. And what I say to him also is you have to believe more in yourself. If I knew back then what I knew now, I would be a whole different player because you went to a tournament, you see the draw, and I look at that, I can beat that guy, I can beat that guy, and you start believing what you say to you. So believe in yourself, and this is for every kid and for every person to believe more in your skills, your assets. It's not about the other person, it's about you. And if you train and you work hard and you keep there, you will make whatever goal you set to do. But you have to believe and you have to don't believe what others say about you. That's the main thing.
Okay. Okay. Don't listen to the naysayers.
Yeah, you have to surround with other people. Perhaps you have to go to other place, other neighbor, other club, but you have to be surrounded by people who believes in you, who have big goals, who wants to make a difference in the world. There are many people that are around partying, just hanging around, and it's about making some kind of difference, or when your kids look at you, well, you're giving a good example.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hernan, for your inspiration. And believe it or not, I've been following every step you take, and you motivate me as well. We are friends in Goodreads. And always when you start a book, I say, oh, this could be a good book to read. And you keep me always taking a step forward. And I see that since we met, you have been making huge steps forwards, and this commitment to be creative, just to create something in the world, I think is fantastic. Because you could be working in your company and going home and being fully satisfied, but you're consistently expanding yourself, and I think that is great. So thank you for that, and thank you for today.
Yeah, thanks for this conversation. And yeah, you have to be willing to jump on an empty pool. With my podcast in English was jumping on an empty pool literally. And it was very rewarding because I speak to people that I don't have access in other way. And and people want to speak and you have a space for them to share their knowledge. And yeah, you have to jump on an empty pool to grow.
That's going to be our title. Jump in an empty pool to grow.
Oh,
Fantastic.
okay.
All right, Hernan. Thank you so much. I will let you go and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, of course, we are in touch and we are rallying from Argentina to Florida all the time.
Yeah, so I'll see you here like last time for a coffee.
Of course, yeah. You bought me lunch. I owe you there.
All right. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much, Hernan.
Thank you.